Okay. Now we will discuss about the higher order components. Okay, like what is higher order component? A very guarantee interview question. Okay, so what is the higher order component? Let us see. So what is a component? A component is nothing but a simple function which will do some functionality, like either we will display some content or we will do something, right? That is nothing but a component. Okay, and what is a higher order component? Okay, this is nothing but a, suppose if you are writing some duplicate code in multiple places. Okay, so in such components what we can do, we can define as a higher order component. So whenever we are writing any duplicate common code in multiple components and we will write that common code as a higher order component, that is the first thing. So using this, what is the advantage? We will remove the duplicate code. That is the first advantage. Then what is this higher order component? It is nothing but a design pattern. Okay, so generally what we are going to do here, first we are going to write one simple function. Okay, so this function is going to take a argument as another component. So higher order component is nothing but which will take a another component as argument. Okay, and it will enhance that component and it will return some new component, something like this. This is nothing about the higher order component. So if you want to see this higher order component is a function that takes component as argument and returns a new component with additional functionality. So let us see what is this really, what is this additional functionality with some sample demo. Okay, suppose in the project, if you go to like any login, we'll go to login here. Suppose employees, here we have a loading, right? After the loading, we have the data. And if you go to companies, again here also we need the same functionality. We want to load the data and we want to after loading we want to show the data, correct, right? So what is the common code in these two places? One is a loading symbol, another is loading the data, also common, right? Here from one URL we are loading the data, here from another URL we are loading the data. Suppose you have 10 sidebar items, you have something like this, then how many times you are going to get it? 10 times, right? That is the reason we are going for a higher order component. So let us write one higher order component. So what we are going to do, we are going to write like a data under loader. That means this component will load the data as well as it will load the loading symbol also. While it is loading, it will load the loading symbol also. Okay, and we can use this one component in all the places whenever it is required, we can use it. Let us try to do this one. Okay, so first thing is, let us create one higher order component. Go here and we can see HOC. Okay, so HOC is nothing but a higher order component and you can create a new file. So here what is the file we want to do it? I want to load the data and loader, both I want to do it. So that is the reason. So whatever the name here, you can create with any name. Okay, I'm going to create like a with the data and loader data JS. You can give any name, loader.js, something like this. Okay, so write a normal function, export default function. So I will say this is my function name. This is not a component name, just write like a function name. Okay, something like this. Okay, I'm going to write it and so open bracket and close bracket. Okay, this is a normal function, right? As per the definition, what it is says, higher order function is a like this function takes a component as a argument. That means now we need to take one component as argument, right? So that is the reason here you can take one component as a argument. Okay, so you can write any name here, no problem, but write it in the capital. This is okay. Okay, and after this you need to return. Now what is the next thing? And returns a new component with additional functionality. We returns a new component. That is the reason whenever we want to return a normal new component, I will say return new function, something. Okay, return function, and you can write like a props. Suppose think like this. This is a component or not? A component is nothing but a simple function which will take some arguments. That is nothing but a what is one component? Here we are returning a another function. So this outer function, we are taking one function as our component as argument and we are returning a new function. That is nothing but a new component. So let's see, here writing a return new, and you can write like any name here, you can write any name, no problem. Okay, so let me write it any name here, something like this. So function function name with loader something. Okay, so here I am at. So inside the function, normal inside the component, what are the things we can hold it? We can write this. Think like this is a separate component. Separate component. Suppose I want to load the data from the backend. Then what is the variable we want to load it? One constant variable, right? So that is the reason constant something like this. Okay. Let me write it data and something props. Okay. Here. So here, what is the this is a props. Okay, I am taking this as a props. This is okay, and this is what is this concept is called. What is this concept? Destructuring. Destructuring, right? Suppose if this property is having loading flag, I can take a loading, and if this property is having data, I can have it as a data. So instead of doing like this, let me go with the first we'll create ourselves, then we will do like this. Okay. So I'm not going to do this auto generated. Let us do one by. So first I want to do like a constant. Okay. Data set data. So why we are writing it? I want to fetch some data from backend API and we want to store into one variable. That is the reason. Okay. And I want to show the loading also. Okay. Then you can take another variable loading, set loading, and see state is equal to false. By default, we want to make it as a false, or you want to make it as a true also, you can do it. No problem. Okay. And then if you want to write a use effect, you know how to, I want to load the data, right? If you want to load the data, what is hook? We can use it use effect. So inside the use effect, you can write, it will take how many arguments? Two arguments. First is a ASIC, like one function, and second is a dependency array. Correct, right? So I am going to write like a empty dependency. I don't have any dependency here. That is okay. Suppose you want to have any URL, then we can take a URL. Later we will add the URL. That is okay. For now, we are going to only concentrate about only one. Okay. Now I want to load the data. So either you can use the Axios, okay, or you can use the yeah, or you can use the fetch API also. Anything is fine. Let me write it. Okay. So let me write it here inside the brackets. Okay. So here you can write like a API. So API is coming from our library, right? If this is not coming, let us go for fetch API. Okay. Something like this. So here I am calling a fetch API. So let us copy our company's URL utils endpoints.json and copy this company's. Okay. So now I am writing like this. Okay. Now after this, we are calling like it then, because this line we will return a promise, and that is the reason we are writing it then. Okay. So then means subscribing a promise. Okay. Now response.json also will return what? Promise only. So that is the reason again I am writing a another then. Okay. Now this is nothing but our data, and I am setting it to like a data. I'm setting this variable to here. Okay. And last line, what I'm trying to do, set loading is equal to false. Here initially, what is the value we are having it at true, and after that, what is the value we are having it a false. So now we have loaded the data also. This is fine. Okay. But here we have hard coded the URL. That is fine. I will change this one to the another one. Okay. Okay. This is okay. Next, now we need to return the data. Okay. Now we need to return the data. Let me go here. So I will say something like this. Here use effect is okay. So I will say something like this. What is my loading flag name? Loading. If this is a loading, I am going to return a loading dot 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 dot. You can write a application loader. You know the classes, right? You can write the class names. Whatever the class names, you can write it. So automatically you can style this component. So now you have written a loading flag. Okay. So now the loading is done. Now finally what you have to do, we have to return our component. Whatever the component I have taken this as argument, right? Now I have to return that component as a argument. Let us see here. What I'm going to do, I'll go it here and I'm going to do like this. Okay. Return. What is my argument name here? Component. So that is the reason I'm writing a component. And here I am writing like a dot 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 props. What is this meaning is whatever the arguments I am taking as a props here. Okay. What is this triple dot operator? Spread operator. It will iterate one by one property, and it will as a argument to here. Suppose if you want to pass any data, you will write like a is equal to a. What is this meaning? A is a prop name and a value name is also a. Whenever both names are same, you can write like this, right? Something like this. So instead of doing like this, here we are writing like a props. Okay. Space dot 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 props. Okay, so this dot 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 props means whatever the properties are there, directly I am passing to this component. Okay, and apart from this, what is the value I am having here? Data, and the data I am giving it to here. Okay, this data will be like whatever the URL you are giving here, that is the data. But here we have hard coded, right? We don't want to give any hard coding. I want to take a argument from the like parent. Parent, how the parent will come through the props. So that is the reason I will say props dot, here I will say props dot URL. Okay, I will write it. So whenever I am writing a props dot URL, I will copy the same name and I will remove it here and I will give as a props dot URL. Okay, so this URL will be dynamic now. I can give any URL, automatically their data will be loading here. Okay, so now what is the higher order component? First we are writing a one component and which is taking another component as a argument. This component can be any component, employee component, company component, any other component also. Then internally it is returning a another component. Correct, right? Okay, now with this one first step is done. Okay, now what we have to do, I have to use this component, right? Let us go to our company component. So components, let us go to companies and company.js. Okay, so here I will write it like this. So generally we are writing, and here I will say export default companies. Generally we can write it like this, right? First we are defining our component and in the last line I am exporting here. Okay, now I want to add a loading in this component in the company. So if you want to loading, what you have to do? Again, you have to create a state variable and loading flag and use effect. Everything you need to write it, right? So instead of doing like this, I am going to use a higher order component. Okay. So what is my higher order component name? What is my higher order component name? With the data loader. Okay. I will go here and I will import it here. Okay. And I will use it like this. Okay, something like this I'm going to use it. Okay, so here I need to import it. There it is not importing, so that's fine. Let us import ourselves. Okay, import and with the higher order component. Okay, so we'll say src HOC, something like this. You want this? No, let us go with the dot dot slash. Okay, and if you are going with the dot dot, here it will come, and next dot dot slash HOC data loader. So what is the problem? So let me see another import from any other. Let me copy any component, something like this. Okay, so here so there is a right if from. Okay, so now first dot dot, something like, let us remove this line. Okay, so file, save all. Okay, so now I have done the export. Okay, now if you are going to see here, and it is saying a, let us clear it and click on companies. Okay, where is this loading flag is coming? Okay, and you can see this network calls. Okay, network calls, there will be like undefined is going. The problem here is it is this higher order component is requiring one function, one argument. What is that higher order component is requiring one argument? URL. What is the property we want to have it? URL. Okay, so that is the reason where I have used this component as argument. Let me go to my app.js. Go to your app.js. So inside the app.js, in the top, you are going to use the company code. Like, where is the company? Let us go to company route here. Okay, here. So here you need to pass like a, what is the property you want to ask your child? URL. So I will give a URL and open bracket and close bracket. Inside the double quote, I will say company URL. Okay, see here. And this is the property I am giving a as an argument to my child. What is my child component? Companies. Now file, save all. Let us check it here in the console. Okay. Okay. Let's see it in the console. First see. Okay. Is there any company's URL? It went here. Let me reload it again. Okay. Log in and go here and click, just zoom it, click on employees. So whenever you are clicking employees, see there is a API call. Where is the API call? Companies is there, and see whether there is a response or not. Then why data is not displaying in my component? Because we are not using that property. Okay, now we'll go to the last step. We'll go to our companies. Okay, we'll go to our companies component wherever it is there. Okay, here let us take a props as an argument. So I will say props. Whenever you are taking a props, instead of props, we can go for a destructuring, right? I'll go for a destructuring. I want one property as called a data. Okay, so this data I want to show the length. How many? What is the length? It is there by default. Okay, I'll go like this, something like this, data dot, okay, length. Let us see here. See what is the length? 10 is there. So let us try to iterate the component and print. Do you know how to iterate the component and print it, right? So let us, you can write a another div. This is nothing but a table. Suppose I want to write a map operator, and this map operator will return the one div. Okay, and we'll close the div itself. Okay, so here I am opening here and data something. Okay, open bracket and close bracket. So this div is closing here, this div is closing here. Any div is missing, closing missing. Let me write it here. Okay, or let me write it here first. Okay, I'm going to write it, and first we are going to write like a data dot map. Okay, so this map is going to return the one it will return the two values, right? I will say company comma index. Okay, and arrow symbol, open bracket and close bracket. Here I'm going to return a div. That div I will close it here. Okay, so inside the div I want to print all the company names. That's all. Okay, I will say h3 company data name property. Go and verify what is the name property. Here is there any name property? So what is the name? Here I am having a company name. So that is the reason here. What is the name? I should print it a company name. And here I will say key is equal to I will say index. Okay, and file save all. Okay, see Trinits technology 1, 2, 3, 10. Okay, so now I will open my component here. What is my component name? Company component. Is anywhere am I writing any loading code? No. Is anywhere I am loading the data? No. Then how data is coming? Okay, this is the common code for multiple places. That is the reason now we have defined a higher order component. So every component is requiring data or not? But this component is not only belongs to company. We can write a employee code also. Suppose you want the employee URL. Let me show you demo. Okay, so you can go to your app.js. Here this time I want the employee data, not the company URL. Here you can simply write like a employee URL. Okay, it is going to load the what data? Employee data, and based on the component you can display your data. Here you are getting empty because there is no here the name is a employee name. If you go to your companies and you can print like a employee name, so automatically you can see. So simply you can pass this higher order component as argument and you can avoid the loading. You no need to write that loading in all the places. Only one place you are going to write it. At what component it is there? Suppose I will click here and I will click here. So there is one flag is coming, right? So you can write a loading and you can write the common code, whatever the common code it is there. You can achieve those common code using what components? Higher order component. So first you need to define one higher order component. So go to your higher order. So you are going to write a normal function first. Inside the normal function, you are going to return a another function. That another function is nothing but a component. Correct, right? This component will return a same component only, but additionally, whatever the data it is requiring, everything will set it here itself. That is nothing but a higher order component. Okay.